Hey everyone, it's me, your buddy Dave, the host of the Dark Stuff channel on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out my new video. So this week, I'm introducing a new series to the channel. It's called the Rock and Roll Book Club. I'm joined by two guests, and the discussion will be done in the style of an old school book club. Now, I say old school because I honestly don't really know if people still do book clubs anymore. I mean, I hope they do. For the first video in the series, we're going to be discussing the new novel from Susanna Hoffs. It's right here. It's called This Bird Has Flown. Okay, so there are major spoilers ahead. In book club, it's kind of assumed that you've already read the book, okay? So we're discussing all aspects of the book. We're talking about the main characters, the main themes of the book, the major plot points, even who we would cast in the eventual movie or series, which will definitely be made from this book, and of course, the ending. So if you haven't read the book, my suggestion would be you may want to stop now, put this in your watch later queue, and then come back to it after you've finished the book. Yeah, quick note, I have made two playlists that accompany this video. So the first one features the songs that were used as chapter titles in the book. It's a pretty good range of stuff, mostly 60s and 70s stuff. And the second playlist is called Susanna Hoffs 25 Favorites. Now, I feel like the title on that one is pretty self-explanatory. It does include songs from the Bangles, Susanna Hoffs solo, and her collaborations with Matthew Sweet. Both playlists are for Apple Music, for YouTube, and for Spotify, and the links are in the description box. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Please leave a comment with your thoughts on the book. As you got from my intro just a second ago, I'm joined by two guests, and we're doing something brand new for the channel, and that is we're doing like book club. But we're keeping it with a rock and roll theme because we're going to be discussing this book right here, This Bird Has Flown, the novel by Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles. Now, longtime viewers of this channel know that I am borderline obsessed with the Bangles. I mean, they're playing on my screen right here. There's a Bangles record back. See, this is reversed, so it's hard for me to show this. But anyways, there's Bangles records on the wall. There's one sort of near the turntable. I've got my original beat-up copy of the first album still sitting here from 1984, the OG, almost 40 years old. So this was a no-brainer for me, picking up this book. In fact, when I saw that it was coming out, I pre-ordered it. Didn't even realize that it was a novel. I assumed it would be a biography, like most rock star books are biographies. So I just assumed that's what it was. But wow, it absolutely 100% is not. Now, let me introduce my guests here. I've got, I don't know where they're going to appear on anyone's screen. So I've got my friend Shelly is with the yellow background. Okay. I've known Shelly for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years or so. We have a million mutual friends. We used to do record night. We used to do all sorts of stuff. We're concert goers, frequent concert goers. And a big time music fans. Person on the, I think on the bottom of the screen is my friend Jennifer. She and I have known each other since preschool, kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in that realm. All through school, all through still today. And as we've reconnected as adults, we realize we both have this huge passion for music.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. I'm a self-proclaimed word nerd. I studied English Lit in undergrad and grad school, so it's kind of nice to get back to my literature roots, but also with something that's just super fun to read.
Okay, Jennifer?
Hello. I don't get as much time to read because I've got a 12-year-old. And I'm just running around with all of that. But when I do read, I always tend to go to the rock bio, the rock stories, and rock fiction. This is a new one. So I jumped at the chance to do this with all of you.
Yeah, this was great. So the whole idea was sparked actually from Jennifer messaging me. I think it was maybe when I was on the radio or something, and I had played the Susanna Hoffs, a track from her new CD, which, by the way, just came out, The Deep End, her new album. And mentioned she has a book out. And I got a message from Jennifer right away. She's like, we need to do a podcast on this book. And it was like, yeah, okay, like, let's do it.
Help you escape from your
So the book, This Bird Has Flown by Susanna Hoffs. It's her first novel. And I thought I'd start with just kind of a quick run through of some of the characters, and then we can take on some of the general themes of the book. And then ultimately wind up with just our final thoughts when we get to the end of our final, overall assessment of the book. So
Also, spoilers galore.
There will be spoilers galore, but that is what you do with a book club. You got to assume everyone's read it, or at least is mostly through it. And if you could also put this on pause and do Audible, listen to it on like 2 times speed, and then come back in like 40 minutes, and then you're almost there. So you'd be there. Okay, so the main character is Jane Start. She is a former pop star or early 30s, kind of a one-hit wonder from 10 years before, and we encounter her at kind of a low point in her life. She has her fame is over. She moved back in with her parents. She's just kind of known as this like one song person from a long time ago. That's where she stands. Her manager's name is Pippa. She plays a pretty prominent role in the story. Will Start is her younger brother. And at first, he just seems like kind of like a stoner loser, kind of a nothing. Mm. He develops more into somebody as the story goes on. There's a character named Tom Hardy, who's an Oxford professor. He becomes a love interest at some point. Amelia Danvers was close to Tom Hardy. I won't reveal yet why she's there. Tom has some friends, a guy named Freddie. They meet up with someone named Alfie Lloyd, who plays a role because he comes back multiple times in the book. He's a pop star, kind of like Jennifer, you suggested, more like kind of like a Jonas Brother type. Mm-hmm. So a Jonas Brother, Nick Lloyd, his brother, which I couldn't tell from the book. Was he also a pop star? Was that his manager that was his brother?
Yeah, I think they were together in a group.
Yes.
So they were both pop stars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's this mythical Jonesy character who is the rock star that is mentioned throughout the entire book. He is the author of the song that was Jane's hit from 10 years ago. It was a Jonesy, sort of an obscure song. She turned it into a hit. And Jonesy is mentioned a lot throughout the book and is a kind of a central figure in it. And last, I would say I mentioned Kurt Cobain, which is just Jane's sweater. But it's funny because she does reference it all throughout the book. And the sweater's name was Kurt Cobain.
And it's the fuzzy green iconic sweater that he used to wear.
Exactly.
So that's why it's called Kurt Cobain.
So very 90s.
I reach out for you if you need someone to lean on, baby.
I guess let's start with the obvious, which is the similarities between and differences between Susanna Hoffs, the author, and this character, Jane Start. Because there are obvious similarities, but there are a lot of differences too. And I can start with a couple of the obvious ones as a difference. Let's say let's start with differences before we get to similarities, because differences are the Bangles were not just a one song band and then they were over. They had a number of hits. They were popular throughout the 80s. So her career trajectory was different than that. There was a big song written by somebody else. Manic Monday was a big song for the Bangles written by Prince. Mm-hmm. And we're going to address the Jonesy later on about my theories about Jonesy. Also, Susanna Hoffs was in a band. She wasn't a solo artist. She was eventually when the Bangles broke up, but besides that, I don't know. I mean, it could be character-wise, personality-wise. I mean, a lot like her. I mean, I'll jump to you, Shelley. Do you know much about the Susanna Hoffs story, or did that even matter to you, like with her tie-in?
Yeah, I really don't know a lot about her story. And I have to say it wasn't my key focus as I was reading it. But the thing that really stood out to me was, the majority of this book is set in the UK. And I just wondered, what is her connection there? Because it felt very British. And from what I can tell, she's not British.
No, and the character's not British. And
the main character's not.
She and her brother are the only two that aren't British in this whole story.
Yeah.
which is I called it, and I think I put it on the sheet that I made for you guys, a UK rock and roll rom-com. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it sort of is, this story, right?
I
So I don't know
felt
what
like
about
she
you.
wrote it really well though. I mean, even some of the, the dialogue felt true to the way British people speak and, the word choice and the dialect. I thought it
She
was
must
really
have
well
spent
done.
time
She
there. And you
must
know
have
what I
spent
think?
some time.
Mhm.
Or
I
is
don't
her
know.
husband American? Do we know?
Her husband is American. He's a film director. He directs, like, he did the what's those Mike Myers with
Austin
Dr.
Powers?
Evil and all that. Austin Powers. He directs the Austin Powers movies. And probably a bunch of others too, but I mean, those were some of the movies he directed. Are you familiar with, the Susanna Hoffs story, or did that weigh in with you at all?
Um, yeah, absolutely. Because there were many things I picked up on, and I guess it's just because I knew it and I had noticed it. But first off, she's a great writer. I did enjoy the book.
Yeah,
And then second of all, I think, when she mentions the music she likes, like the Zombies, she inducted them at the Rock Hall. When was that? 2 or 3 years ago, David?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, a
She
couple years ago.
inducted them. And I mean, she just kind of talks about that soul, like, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Tyrell. Like, I think she tends to go a little bit obscure with soul and with that kind of British rock.
And that part ties into Susanna Hoffs, because that is what
Yes.
the Bangles were inspired by. They
Yes.
love that 60s, early 70s sort of vibe. But the character of Jane exists in the modern time. She's there with texting and with Instagram and with whatever. So that
Mhm.
music is not just like 20 years old, like when the Bangles were starting out. This is now like 60 years old or 50 years old or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like way older. So she's really into um very different stuff for someone her age as a character. Yes,
Mhm.
does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Absolutely. But
Mhm.
I think it shows her depth for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think it just shows so much about her that she, as a pop singer, she's just not into, random crap.
I can't think of another pop star that it would fit, but I do think those music choices, that's the Susanna Hoffs in this book. It's not the
Mhm.
main character, it's the musical influences and how they tie into what she would love.
That's a good point, actually, because it is very reflective of her. And it does seem like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's not about Jane per se. Like, she is in this different world. We don't even really, I don't even understand what Jonesy really sounds like what his music would be like. I don't have a good mental picture of what that would be like. I don't really have a good mental picture of what her stuff would be like either, other than that she said her second album that nobody bought was kind of alternative folksy sort of sound. I don't know exactly what that means, but. But yeah, that is a good point, that the song selection, which are also the book titles, or the
Chapter
chapter
titles.
titles and everything, are tied in with these kinds of classic songs that are very Susanna Hoffs. Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
Now
Um,
go ahead.
I did have a vision of what her big hit was.
Okay.
Do you guys want to hear that? And
Yeah.
I listened to this radio station called WFUV. Leaves, I'm sure I've told you about it 100 times. It's fantastic. It's a college radio station. It's on the campus of Fordham in New York. And I can't say enough about this station. Like, it's playing in this house 24/7, even in the bathroom where I have a speaker. But moving on from that, I heard Nothing Compares to You. And as we know, Prince wrote that song.
Right, for Sinead O'Connor.
I'm not a Sinead O'Connor fan. I don't mind her version of that song. It's quite beautiful. But I thought maybe trying to get an image of what her big song was, that it was probably something along those lines where somebody else wrote it,
Mhm.
somebody else who was kind of still, performing and, up until their death, of course. But that's exactly what came to my mind today when I heard that song.
That's interesting. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I always saw it as like, okay, well, it must be about the Bangles because, and you could say Manic Monday and Prince, and then I think, well, is that being too obvious, right? Like, am I going there because, well, that's my age and my era, and that's what I think of, but again, a difference is that wasn't some old obscure Prince song that the Bangles covered and made into a hit song.
Right.
That was gifted to the Bangles by Prince. There was no older version of it first. There's a
Mhm.
difference. That's a difference. But again, to the average reader, I don't think that's a major part of the story at all. So it's really not really that relevant. That's just more me nitpicking about stuff, you know.
Can I throw out my Jonesy theory?
Okay, yes, feel free.
Okay, so you guys are talking Prince,
Yes.
and I was thinking he was more of a Mick Jagger. And my reasoning for that is that if you listen to the playlist that you put together on Spotify, Dave, it's very Stones heavy.
Yeah.
Like they're the only band that gets repeated, and she covers one of their songs too.
Well, I included her, I put her version of it as opposed to the Stones because there was already so many Stones on there. So, and she does cover
Right.
Under My Thumb on the new album. So,
Exactly.
Interesting.
And just like Jane covers a Jonesy song. So to me, that was kind of a hint that it was a Mick Jagger type.
that could be. I mean,
That
I had,
very well
again,
could be.
my brain I was always going to Prince just because of the
Same.
one name and all of that. But it could definitely be somebody else, a Mick Jagger type. It's so open-ended. And again, maybe it's not that important. You know, in the context of the story, she covered some obscure song. It became a hit. That's her signature. And for the most of the world, that's all they,
That's,
that's all they know. It's just
yes.
this one song, and that's it.
Yes.
And that's where she's at the beginning of the story. It's not really great for her. I think, Shelley, I talked to you right at the beginning. I'd gotten maybe 50 pages in, and I gave you a little synopsis of what was going on, and you had said maybe this was sort of like a cautionary tale, like Jane's story was what could have been Susanna Hoffs' career. If it hadn't broken a different way, this could have been what happened to her. And my thought was maybe Susanna Hoffs was writing about this with some actual people in mind that she knows, maybe not no one she would name, but had that similar career trajectory. She saw that and was like, wow, I mean, that wasn't me, but fortunately she got to write it that way for, in her book.
And it's possibly an amalgamation of a lot of different people. And to me, I kind of read the book as commentary on the music industry and how women have to navigate certain things in the industry. So for instance, Jane's outfit that she has to wear to her Vegas gig to sing her cover that was the big hit is like a leather cat suit and a pink wig.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what she wore in the video. And that's all anybody knew her for. And also she did the Basic Instinct legs uncross cross
Horrified about it. Yeah.
And Jonesy, when he eventually pulls her on stage with him toward the end of the book and requires her to wear that, and she just absolutely hates it. And it's like, well, what do you value? Do you value this pink wig and this cat suit in my body, or do you value my singing and my talent?
And with Jonesy, it was sort of hard to tell what he valued and what he didn't, because on the one hand, he's also so flirty and super sexual with her, and she is under the impression that because she didn't sleep with him 10 years ago, that damaged her career. And now she's presented with the opportunity, again, sorry for the spoiler, but she doesn't go through with it again. Does it, so there is that. That's definitely a tale with artists. And that's why I also thought it was Prince too, only because Prince is known for working with female proteges that he, think of the Vanity Six and became Apollonia 6 for the movie, and Sheila E., although I don't think they ever slept together, but I think it was a female protege. He had a lot of other ones too. He tried to make Carmen Electra a singer. I mean, at one point, so that was what he did, all sorts of stuff back then. So that's why I kept thinking it. But again,
it makes sense.
But no, you're right, because she does really have these reservations about it, is forced into these kind of, compromising situations, but yet does it and, makes it through on the other side, fortunately. But I guess maybe that's the tale. You do have to put up with a lot of crap, and it isn't that much different now in 2023 or whenever this book is supposed to be set, maybe within the last couple of years, than it was for Susanna Hoffs coming up, because I did a video on the Bangles a couple of years ago, and I found this little video clip of Dick Clark from American Bandstand. We all grew up loving Dick Clark, right? Mr. Milquetoast, middle of the road guy. And he actually asked the Bangles on national TV if they really play their own instruments.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, dude, I mean, you wouldn't ask Styx that, or, you know, anyone else, you know, you just ask the Bangles. And so it was just sort of like, yeah, they had to put up with a lot of shit. That was their era. And now she's putting up with his other era. And of course, men trying to always sleep with you, that's throughout time. That's not exclusive to the 80s or to now. I guess that's just the way that it is.
Well, and Jonesy, when she's performing with him the second time in Paris,
right.
and she like grabs his guitar, his acoustic guitar, and kicks off the stilettos and throws off the wig and gets at the end of the stage and is like hollering her song that she wrote. And it's this amazing, beautiful moment. And she is just shining. And then afterward, she gets fired because she stole his spotlight. So to me, it's like the message is, well, Jonesy only wants you if he can control you. And if you do exactly what he wants you to do. But if you do your own thing, or God forbid, upstage him, then you're out. That's it.
He wants you there when you serve a purpose. And then once you don't anymore, it's sayonara. And if you upstage him or do something, because it seemed like based on the description, that was a really cool moment of the concert. He was vibing with it. It wasn't like he was sitting there going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know, he was in the moment. He was doing it too. And then was fired or later afterwards, you know?
Well, he couldn't show what an asshole he was.
Well, yeah, such a dick move too.
But if you noticed when they were getting ready for the show, like he had his vision of exactly what the show should be. He didn't talk to her literally until right before.
He didn't even give her a rehearsal.
No,
That's right.
That's it.
And so for weeks they were trying to get that. Pippa was calling in, trying to figure out what the fuck am I supposed to be doing even? Because I don't even think she knew. Right. I don't even think she knew until the day before that she's only coming out for the encore, and it's for that song that she's already known for. Like, she didn't know what was supposed to be expected, and now it's like, you're coming out for the one song. And that's what I want you for. You know who I just thought it flashed to my head? Sheena Easton. You remember how Sheena Easton had that time with Prince? You Got the Look, and he wrote that song "Sugar Walls" for her, which was terrible song. Which was her dirty song, you know, whatever. When she was like Miss Milquetoast Middle. I mean, my dad likes Sheena Easton, and then she's singing "Sugar Walls," doing "You Got the Look." Maybe that's where I was. That's where it went. And then all of a sudden, she's out the door. You know, she served her purpose for Prince, and then the next year she's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm more and more convinced it's Prince, but I mean, I'm willing to entertain other ideas for sure. I mean, no question.
Well, the song on the soundtrack that you put together from the book, "Under My Thumb," is exactly what's going on there, right? Like, yeah. I agree with a lot of the points. Well, all of the points that you've made, but it's the playlist that just like, I can't get off Mick Jagger just because of that. And because he's British.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that is the other thing, because it's so much of it is set over there that you kind of want to think it's based on a British rock star. I kind of want to go there too, a little bit. I just, again, I see all the Prince stuff, but maybe I'm fixated on that. I got to move on from that. It's not Prince, or, you know, it's another character. It's the one name.
It's both thing. Or a bunch.
It can be whatever you want. I guess people can see whatever they want to in that thing. So,
I keep hearing this song in morning sea.
I would love to hear you guys talk about what you think the deal with Jonesy is, as in, like, what happened with him the first time that is 10 years before where we're at in the book. Right. And why do you think that she tells it in such a cryptic and fragmented way? I don't know if I could properly articulate what happened there.
Yeah, I think he was the person that made her career with that song. And I think, given where she was living in her parents' basement, no, thank you. I think that she was, you know, I think she might have felt that she was always under someone else's thumb. And I think the relationship with him is one that she wanted to keep, even though he was disgusting and kind of lecherous and controlling. But I think that he made her. I'm assuming he made her.
And I think that's why she's so conflicted, because
Yes.
on the one hand, whatever happened 10 years ago, which in her mind destroyed her career, or at least heavily damaged it, because the perception was she didn't fuck Jonesy, and so therefore he no longer was willing to help her. Now that may or may not be the reason why her career faltered. It could have been, well, the first album sounded like this and the second album sounded like this, and people didn't like it. Bad marketing, bad time. It could be a myriad of other reasons, but in her mind, it was the experience with Jonesy and the way he acted and the way she acted as a response that damaged the career. So that's why she's like hypersensitive to it now, obviously. Plus that extra thing of, do people only care about me because of a Jonesy song? I'm a writer. I write my own music, but like the only thing people know is this Jonesy song that I did 10 years ago. That's it. Nobody seems to know anything else that I've done. So I think it's a double sensitivity. On the one hand, she feels sensitive about it in just a lot of different ways because of his connection to her past success.
A little, indebted to him too, because he did everything, for her career.
And he seems to be very aware of that and likes to kind of
he loves
use that. And there's probably 20 other Jane Starts in this Jonesy's life. He's done this with a million other women before. He's Mr. International Superstar Jonesy. He's got other people to work with or whatever. And this is the first time he circled back. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe he wanted like the royalties if they started playing the song more and more and they resurrected the song.
Oh my gosh. Right.
Who knows? He's just awful.
Well, it was Pippa got it in a commercial. Remember that? And
the
so
toilet paper commercial.
Yep.
Yeah, that was maybe got the idea back in there. They had to get Jonesy's permission because it was his song initially. So maybe that put the thing in his head. Oh yeah, what about her?
Yeah.
And if he still had some resentment about, I remember her from 10 years ago. Yeah, too good for me or whatever. Then he just would have moved on. He didn't have to help her. She's nobody in this point, 10 years later. I mean, she is literally a one-hit wonder from 10 years ago. He's doing all the help.
But also, he couldn't control her 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he still wants to get control of her. So to me, that's what it's about. Bringing her back is like, she's not going to win. Like, I'm going to use my fame and my power, and I'm going to trot her out on a stage in the pink wig and the cat suit, and I'm going to win the game. And he starts that with, the note like, happy anniversary, baby. And then on the call, he says, like, kiss me or something like that. And it's like, so the way that I perceived their encounter 10 years ago was that there was a show, she thought she was going to a party. They go up to his penthouse. It's just them. And then he doesn't like do anything super like obvious. Like he doesn't
nothing rapey,
attack her or anything,
right?
But she feels it in her gut and she bolts.
And she was probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And women out there, if you feel it in your gut, it's fully right. FYI.
Yes. Yes.
And there was a major power imbalance 10 years ago and still now.
Yeah. Always. And so now he's just like, listen, I'm going to take another go at it and I'm going to get you because I make or break you. But what I think is so interesting is that
I want to be more optimistic about Jonesy, but go ahead.
I want to be more optimistic about all people in power, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get on the good side of the powerful people. That's it.
Dave, he's not going to make your career.
Well, you never know. I might cover one of his songs and then it would go somewhere. Stranger shit has happened.
Well, what I think is interesting, though, is like, so he fires her, but then there's still a line toward the end of the book about how, like, this time they part ways as friends.
Well,
am I getting that right? Because that part
maybe he's grown a little bit because I think he felt guilty about what he did. He understood he overreacted, but he's a big pampered baby. And so he can never admit that. So what he does is he gives her this song that the two of them wrote together and said, here you go. Here's your next hit. And, that's it. But he obviously knew he was wrong. Maybe 10 years ago, he wouldn't have been that reflective about it. But this time he's a little older. He's a little wiser. He decides, you know what? I was a dick there, but he's never going to admit it because he's a big pampered rock star. And this was his way of saying, I fucked up and sorry.
Yeah, maybe he's not as big of an asshole as I think. Like, because he didn't try to sleep with her.
This could be this
with her.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever that thing. We just see things in different ways. I'm not saying Jonesy was a good guy because he's definitely very creepy and likes to use his power, but maybe he's not so horrible. Maybe he did really, like that song they wrote together. Maybe he did want to help her, but yeah, his ego just kind of got in the way because it got bruised with that stage incident.
Well, I think, and as Shelley said, I mean, he's probably got 20 Jane Smarts all over the place. I don't think it's that deep. I think he probably saw the song in the toilet paper commercial, started circling around again. And listen, I mean, I really and truly do not think it's that deep. I think he's just, a guy with power, and maybe he gets bored somewhere and goes back to something else. And it's all about him.
I'm kind of with Jennifer on that one.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as deep. I don't think that he cares. I mean, he obviously remembers everything, remembers 10 years ago and whatever, and it's in his brain, but maybe he didn't really care about it that much. It was just, hey, you were in the moment passed. I moved on. I'm a rock star. I've been with 300 women ever since then. It's like, I kind of forgot. And then the song came back in my head in your version. And it's like, hey, why don't we invite her to my big show coming up at the Royal Albert Hall? Not thinking it was any big deal. He gets in a room with her, though. He becomes Jonesy, the jerk, and he attempts to make a move, doesn't go anywhere. And, we all know what happened at that point. So,
I wouldn't even be surprised if he hadn't really thought about her much at all. And then he was bored and circled back. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But I think the contrast that's important is that Jane has thought about it for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And that those types of things, while not overt, that he did, those are they still affect you.
Absolutely.
And especially women, when we're put in that situation of, there's an expectation of sex, or we're being manipulated by subtleties like kiss me and, happy anniversary baby and crap like that. Like that affects you and gets into your spirit. Or at least that's how, I feel like is portrayed with Jane.
Yeah. No, all of that is true.
Waiting on a miracle, trying to find ourselves in the...
Well, let's take the conversation slightly differently off of Jonesy for a little bit, and let's get to Tom. Tom Hardy, Oxford professor, Jane's love interest in the book. They meet on a plane as she is flying to London to, I think it was a stay at Pippa's apartment for a couple weeks to kind of get her head together. And after that awful Vegas gig or whatever, and kind of let loose in London, she gets seated next to this guy and seemingly falls in love with him. Now, one of these questions was that, Shelley, that you came up with was, when did you first suspect there would be sort of trouble with Tom? And I'm going to say, I didn't necessarily think Tom was in it for the long haul. Like, they met on the plane. They have this flirty time. It's an international flight. So you're there for 6-8 hours, whatever. You have time to talk to somebody, get to know them. You're in first class, which I've been in first class only a couple of times, but people are just nicer up there. They see, women are flirty. It just happens. And he didn't call her for 2 weeks, right? They land in London, he exchanged numbers. She goes about her business. He doesn't call her. I just thought that was the end of Tom. Like, she's pining for him and stuff, but that's just because she's on the rebound from her previous relationship, and it was a nothing. So I didn't really see Tom entering into the picture long term. I was surprised when he finally called back. I thought she was going to connect with Jonesy or some new person, as yet not introduced, like that she meets in London or something like that. That's kind of where I saw it going initially. So for me, I didn't see Tom entering, going very much further than the plane. So I was surprised on that score.
Okay, I'm going to add several things here.
Okay.
Okay, first off, so the night before, she's with the young, hot pop star. They're hammered. They're doing everything that they're doing. She gets up, it's the next morning, right? She gets up the next morning and goes on a plane, probably looking like hell, probably hasn't showered. So she's that beautiful, that in that hottest state of a mess, this handsome, professor, and he really sounded handsome, I'm telling you, that, he kind of fell for her and that happened. And that I just thought was so funny. I'm like, the timing of this is pretty quick, but good for her. But I think that was just a statement of how beautiful she was, like just rolling off of a freaking party bus in Vegas, drunk and getting on a plane.
Yeah.
But another thing I noticed so with Tom, so what was before he loaded the plane, he was on the phone arguing, right? So he was on the phone arguing with someone who was his really awful friend who I could not stand. I did
Was
not
that
like
Freddie? Was that the friend, Freddie?
Yes, I
Yeah.
could not stand him. He scared me. I just didn't like him. But that's where it was. And just kind of that argument before, it's like, what are you doing? Are you a dealer? Are you like, what's going on here? So that one I was, that was the first time I was kind of like, I don't know. And the plane, I mean, that was a hell of a plane ride, obviously, but it took me a while to trust him. And while I really felt, if I'm jumping ahead, let me know, while I really felt the physical relationship, and she wrote about that incredibly well. I mean, you could pick up on that. I thought their emotional relationship, I didn't feel as much of a connection with them emotionally.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. Yeah, the relationship didn't seem super deep at first. It seemed like, okay, he's kind of with this younger than him, former pop star, although he didn't recognize her. So it's not like he's thinking the pop star, but knows who she is now. This beautiful younger woman interested in him. I think he's thinking, because he didn't call her back for 2 weeks, but while he's on the plane, I think he's thinking, I don't know, maybe this is going to be a fun hookup or whatever, but I'll never see this woman again. Like, I think that's how, I mean, again, I didn't put a lot of stock in Tom, really. I really did not think he was going to be there for the long haul. So I didn't think of Tom as anything, but obviously I was wrong. It did seem semi-superficial at first, and maybe it did get deeper. I mean, maybe it was harder to portray that, but
yeah,
she was immersed in his life so quickly. She's practically living at his house a week later. She knows the neighbor, she's hanging out with his friends. She's doing all of these things.
Housekeeper,
Right. The housekeeper she's dealing with.
Yeah.
So she knows, she's so immersed in his life so quickly that it's sort of like, you just assume, well, everything else is going great. So maybe it is a little bit deeper or whatever, but it just seemed awfully fast. And especially when you're in a foreign country, not that England is so foreign or whatever, but I mean, it still is another country.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I thought this was one of my questions.
Oh, wait, can I answer my own question?
Yes, you can absolutely ask your own question.
Stacking the deck. My first sign that something was going to go wrong with Tom, I was swept up with Tom. So I was not like, I was like, okay, he's going to call her. I mean, call me a hopeless romantic, but I was on the other side of that. But the first sign for me was when she was in his flat and she was looking at the pictures on the wall and there was a space for one more. And she's like, oh, he must be just looking for, the last one to fill the space. And I'm like, oh no, honey, he took something down.
Mm-hmm.
I did not even catch that detail. I did not.
That was like red flag city for me.
So one of my big questions was, you had to bring about, how did you feel about Tom? Did you like him? Did you trust him? So clearly there was some trust issues with him, but I thought, did Jane overreact to hearing the news about Tom's engagement? Now, I have a feeling we're going to see things differently on this one, but I think the answer is yes, she did overreact to that. I understand being upset, like even very upset, and being like, I need to get away from you, dude. Like, to find out that you were engaged when I met you on that plane and we were doing all this flirting and kissing on the airplane and whatever, and now to find out that you were engaged to this other woman at that time, I could understand being upset about that and not being told. On the other hand, she took it to another level of saying, it's because of what happened to me with my previous boyfriend, how I got dumped. That guy cheated on, I think it was Alex was his name. That guy cheated on Jane. And therefore, what that woman did to her, how she felt, is now what's happening to Tom's former fiance. And my response to that is they're not the same. Like, the situations are just not the same. That other woman with Alex was an active participant in cheating with somebody who had somebody else involved. Jane didn't even know that Jane didn't know who this person was. She meets this guy on a plane. So yeah, maybe I'm not saying he's a good guy. He's right. He's whatever. But I do think she kind of overreacted. I think you just needed to cool down, maybe take a couple days apart, reassess, but then you would have gotten back together. Like, the way she took it of like, I can never see him again. It's over. It's done. This is too much. I can't do to another woman what was done to me. I just didn't see them as this parallel situation. So that's why I kind of thought she's seemingly kind of overreacted. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I agree that they're totally different situations for the reasons that you cited as well. Jane didn't maliciously break up, a relationship. Right. She didn't even know the relationship existed, so it's totally different. But for her, she clearly, having felt what it's like to be cheated on, and to see your ex be in this very close relationship very quickly, she knows how that feels, and she doesn't want to make somebody else feel that way. And I think it's that feeling of hurt that's driving her reaction. But the thing for me is, can you really trust Tom if he kept this secret from her this whole time? Where it's like, well, what is he going to lie about in the future because he doesn't want to lose her? But then also at the same time, she had a lie of omission also because she didn't tell him about Alex.
That's
like,
true.
So they were both rebounding.
They were both on the rebound. That's why I didn't see Tom as being long-term. I thought he was going to be pretty short-term because it was just a rebound thing. And also, yeah, she did kind of not bring it up. And she said she was purposely not trying to talk about her previous relationship with her current situation. He did have plenty of time to bring it up, though. Like, as soon as Jane started, I won't say snooping, but learning more information about Tom, learning more that this Amelia was not just his girlfriend from college 20 years ago or whatever, but was the actual, was a little bit more serious than that. The cat situation where he played it off like that was her cat, but it was actually his cat and he really liked the cat. So all these things, yeah, he was definitely not a straight shooter. He was definitely doing something. And I'd like to be, again, to try to give him the benefit of the doubt and just try to be like, how do you explain that to somebody? Like, you meet somebody and you're just so bowled over and you're so in love, and that you break off an engagement. And now here you are, you took 2 weeks to settle your differences, to, move on, or to get, end the relationship, try to be good about it in his way, then go back to the other one. I mean, when is the appropriate time to have brought that up? Obviously some point before she discovered it, but is that something you want to bring up? Doesn't that make him look like super flighty and like not very reliable anyways? I mean, if he did bring it up, she'd be like, this guy is like, wow, so you're engaged one day and then you're making out with me on a plane, and either way, he loses, in my opinion.
Okay. I think it moved so quickly and he didn't sort out anything. He didn't tell her anything. Maybe they could have taken it a little bit slower while he sorted this engagement with this psycho woman out and had Jane move in. And it kind of started on just a basis of rubble, with both of them. And what you said about her having the guilt and overreacting, I do think she overreacted. But again, as Shelley said, how are you going to trust this guy? So yeah, I think
there's a million reasons for not to.
It was messy. But yeah, I mean, they were all guilty.
And I would say you tell her before you invite her to live with you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, look,
might be
there was a
okay.
time to bring that up. I get why it was hard and why he didn't want to and how it made him look like a jerk. Like you were actually engaged. You had invitations to your wedding and now you just break it off all of a sudden with somebody you meet on a plane. Like I just felt like he thinks that's going to make me look like a fucking psycho. And if I can somehow
Yeah.
not ever have to have this information come up, like all the
But
better
that's a
for
pretty
me.
big deal. I mean,
That is a very big deal. That's why
I
I'm
mean,
saying he's not
yeah,
justified in doing it, but I
yes.
can understand his logic at first of being like, if I bring this up, this is going to be so bad for me. Like, no woman would want to hear this. She's going to think I'm the biggest idiot. And that I'll do this to her too. Like, I'll get all serious. What if we get engaged and then I meet somebody else? You know, all of a sudden I'm like, no, that's over. You know, so I think it made him look flighty and sketchier. And
I think so too.
either
Okay.
way, it's bad just because of the circumstance.
But do you remember when was it before the plane took off the first time that he was on the phone arguing?
I do remember something about that. Yeah.
So I wonder if it wasn't starting to break off, slowly, obviously.
I think they implied that it kind of was.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
she seemed more interested in turning this into a marriage than he had. That there was a reference to something about, I think Freddie told the story of like, she kind of gave him an ultimatum. Like, if you don't
Yes.
straighten out and marry me in like 6 months or a year or whatever, I'm out.
Well,
And then you learn later on that, then you learn later on through some of Tom's friends or Freddie's friends, I don't remember whose friends, but they were saying how she was kind of manipulative. Like she said, oh, she went to go to a rehab because she was depressed or whatever, but she said that kind of stuff for years. Like she would always be like, oh, if you leave me, I'm going to do this or that or whatever, like kind of implying she was a bit of a drama queen and had kind of pulled that sort of act before. So maybe it wasn't that serious. She was sort of trying to manipulate Tom, and Tom knew there was problems.
Yeah.
But if he'd never met Jane, he would have married her the next month or whatever it was and been none the wiser. And he would have just been an unhappy married man for the rest of his life. Probably.
Yeah. I felt like she was taking advantage of his niceness.
Yes.
And I felt like the way
the ex-wife,
Amelia.
Amelia. Okay.
Yeah. That she was taking advantage of Tom's niceness. And I think I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this, but I think the way that Hoffs would like us to think about Tom in the end is that, he's just this very kind, very giving person that will do anything for anyone. And that fact makes up for his lies about his engagement and not telling Jane.
See, yes, I understand that, but I also think, I'm hoping for this relationship that their spark is still going. This relationship was as physical. Yeah. So I think that all of the above was going on, but yeah, they were.
Well, I will say about as far as
busy.
the physical stuff and her writing about sex and everything, which was a prominent part of the book, it made me sort of realize I must read a lot of fiction by men, because this definitely was like, this is from a woman's perspective. Like it's different than what I'm used to reading. So it was like, I was into it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is good stuff, whatever. And so it made me realize, I must be mostly reading male authors because it seemed different to me, but not different bad, just different.
Probably more detailed.
Yeah. Probably more
gentler.
Lots more emotion.
Exactly. Lots more emotion. It was more detailed. Definitely.
Can I say right now, I'm just going to shout out to Susanna Hoffs. We need a sequel. We need to see what really ends up happening with Jane and Tom. We need Jonesy to come back in the picture and do something ridiculous. We need to see Jane win that fight. And who knows, maybe Jane meets another paramour. I think she could really use these characters and keep going.
I think she could too. There's definitely room to move, especially even if they didn't even bring back Jonesy. Like, like her career kind of springboards, like this single becomes big, her next song or whatever. And then she's having this career renaissance, and does that damage? I mean, not trying to give Susanna any ideas. She probably has plenty, but how does that affect her relationship with Tom? Is he going to stay back at home while she's touring the world? It does have
Yeah.
other angles. I'd also like to see a little bit, maybe a film of this, because I want to visualize who these people are. Like, I want to see them.
There's already a film in the works.
Yes.
Oh, there is.
Yes,
Yeah.
because if you're a nerd like me and you read the acknowledgments, it says it in the acknowledgments.
Well,
I
and
read
Susanna's
it the other day in like not the Daily Mail, but like on some, website.
well,
of
her
crap.
husband is in the movie business.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
definitely makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense.
Find something inside.
Let's talk about a little bit more in terms of the story about how her career stuff and how it brings in like Pippa, who is such an important character and really is kind of carrying her for a long time.
Mhm.
And when she starts when they get the opportunity to do this Jonesy gig, in her mind, it's like, I've been carrying you for 10 years. I make a percentage of what you make. And if you make nothing, I make 10% of your nothing. So
Mhm.
I need you to do stuff. Like, I think at some point, Pippa was kind of like, listen, like, you need to do this. Like, don't be flaky on this show. Like, no matter what it is. That was another pressure that Jane probably felt to do the show, was that I got to make a commission here for my manager. Like, I need to get paid so that, because she's just doing this out of charity, essentially. I thought she was a really interesting character, because most managers are very cutthroat. And they don't give a shit about you on a personal level. But she clearly did. And I think that made it why she did have a second attempt at a career. She had a good manager who's a good person who actually cared. I think it's funny that she's hooking up with the brother.
That
great.
part was really random to me. I didn't know much that was endearing about him. He just kind of seemed like
Yeah.
he lived in the basement too, and maybe didn't live in the basement, but lived at home and had random jobs. But, maybe that's what Pippa wanted. Maybe, he was the type of person that she needed, because she's such a strong,
uncomplicated
loud,
younger guy.
aggressive.
An
Yeah.
uncomplicated younger guy who just is
Exactly.
into being her boyfriend, and doesn't really have he's not in the music business per se. He's not trying to steal her clients. He's not trying to,
Mhm.
whatever. Maybe that's what she seemed to be into it. And I'm having trouble picturing Pippa personally. Like, that's the person I'm having trouble imagining what she looks like what a good actress would be for her. I don't know.
I would say, I mean, she's definitely curvy, voluptuous, gorgeous. Like, if Sofia Vergara were in her 30s, I would
Mhm.
say
Mhm.
that would be a choice.
Wow.
Rebel Wilson. I don't know. I mean, someone.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Good.
If Jane's supposed to be like 33, I'm thinking she would be maybe late 30s, early 40s,
Mhm.
something like that, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like they were friends more than, in addition to the manager, obviously, as we
Yeah,
discussed.
best friends.
She was doing bachelor parties. She was probably doing state fairs. You know what I mean? Like, just gigs that sadly were
Nearly
not
the
that-
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
But
kind
if
of.
you want to keep working, sometimes you have to go through that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and most people know the career cycle of some groups is, you do come down, but you can come back up. It doesn't mean just because you come down, you're down forever. That's why most bands that I've ever worked with or known or whatever always say, be nice to the people that you meet on the way up, because they're the same people you're going to see on the way down. And if you were a super asshole going up, they're not going to give a shit. It's going to be a much more rough experience when you're coming down. And people who have long-term careers appreciate and understand that. And those who don't are the ones that you don't ever really hear about again. They go down and you never hear them again.
One thing about Pippa that just struck me.
Yeah.
So at the end of the book, we see Pippa and Will getting married. We do not see Jane and Tom getting married, but those two relationships started around the same time.
That's true.
Because Will went to live with Pippa, or to help Pippa, when Jane went to live with Tom.
That's true.
I'm telling you, sequel.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, there is
Agreed.
definitely there's some unanswered questions there because yeah, that was weird that they got married. I mean, that seemed really quick. That was surprising, and
Uh-huh.
definitely kind of random. It was sort of strange. But yeah, there's got to be a reason for it. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but
I think it was in line with Pippa's personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like she's just kind of, out there and aggressive, whatever we discussed earlier about her. I think it's just kind of in line with her personality.
yeah, and
very
she's all business.
decisive.
She's all
Yes.
business. She knew what she wanted. She was found
Yes.
it and
Yeah.
was like, let's do this. Let's go.
Yes.
No need to fuck around. Pretending. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, so do you think in a potential sequel then, like, because Tom and Jane didn't get married and it was the other those two got married, Will and Pippa, then maybe their relationship now we think isn't in there for the long haul. Like, is that a hint? If Pippa and Will knew automatically, why didn't those two just know automatically? They already did so much stuff just flying off the seat of their pants, like making super impulsive decisions. Why are they all of a sudden super cautious about this?
Maybe they decided to slow it down.
Good call.
That would be smart. And also, Jane's got her career now going, and so she doesn't have to be singularly focused on a boyfriend or a husband or whatever. She's back in the game.
Right.
She's got a band or whatever. She was working on new material. She's potentially going to have another big song, or, in theory, they talked about how her old record all of a sudden started going up the charts, like people were streaming it again, or all of a sudden people were discovering it. So yeah, maybe that could be the answer, a career thing, I suppose. I don't know.
When you just said that, it made me think about how, her second album got all that attention and her career launched again. And, actually she really did win over Jonesy in that way. She is successful without him and without having to prance around.
Well, or you could say,
I just realized that
it's not even a win. Like they both got what they wanted. He got that memorable performance. He got this experience to be around her again or whatever. He did do a power play and fire her or whatever, but in the end, she got her career back.
Yeah.
So she wins too. They both get they both kind of get what they wanted. And I'm still in the school of Jonesy doesn't take this relationship that seriously. Like it's in the moment. She's the woman in front of him at that second. And then when she's gone, it's out of his mind and he doesn't think about it that hard. That's what I think personally.
Same.
I
He
think so
probably
too.
put it on and was like, oh, I wonder what she's doing. Let's call her up.
Right. And
Really,
he got what he wanted. He
just-
got the memorable show at the Royal Albert Hall and people talked about her again. And hey, look at her. She's back on stage, whatever. He got his moment. And then when it became, he didn't want that moment anymore. It was too much trouble. He cuts her loose and he moves on. But she got her career back.
Well, and I don't think the winning matters quite as much to Jonesy as it does to Jane. But maybe I'm also just coming from a place of I'm a very competitive person.
I just want to win.
I just want Jane to win. But I think Jane has thought about it a lot more, and it matters a lot more to her that she could do it her own way and not have to be under his thumb and find success in that way this time.
Although she is using a song that she co-wrote with Jonesy.
Well, she wrote it, but
Yeah.
they recorded it together and I think did some harmonies or something.
Yeah. I don't know how you would credit that, but probably would say it was a co-write just to get the attention of like,
Yeah.
He probably took all the credit, of
Why not?
course.
Oh, he will probably.
Now he's gone, and I'm out with a friend.
Well, and I mean, that is kind of one of the themes I see in this book is, what are you willing to sell of yourself? And what are you willing to trade for fame or trade for the thing that you love to do? I think that's something that seems very intentional on.
And
Hoffs'
also,
part.
she really got in on the sort of the modern era of the pop star, because in her era, it was different in the 80s. You couldn't be contacted everywhere you went. There weren't cell phones, right? There weren't all of these.
Twitter, there was an none of
Right.
that.
There's no Twitter, no Instagram. Like the paparazzi was one thing, but it was a completely different animal now that every single human being you encounter has a phone in their hand, as a camera in their hand, and can take pictures of everything. It's a totally different landscape these days. And she did manage to capture that, like seeming like she really does, get it. She was able to transform, her experiences or their base, whatever it's based on, into the modern day. There was no, oh, she's writing a story about the 80s or it's something. No, it was very much of the moment.
Yeah, I thought she did great at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Which made
too.
it better. I do just think she did a great job writing this, like capturing the story. It was a good story. I wanted to know what happened. It did have some twists and turns. The whole saga there was a saga with Jonesy, but there's also the saga with Tom, because she did sort of go back to his house that one time. And I thought, okay, this is them getting back together. And then she didn't. Remember that she like abruptly left again. And then it's like, okay, Tom's out a second time. It's over with Tom. And then, he reemerges a third time. So
I did have one thing that bugged me with this book, and it very well could be my attention span. I don't know. I felt like, okay, remember when they went to the countryside and she was writing, and what was that woman's name? Amelia knocked her down, right, on the horse.
we didn't know it was Amelia at first, right?
Yeah, you didn't know. So I felt like it took her a very long time to get to what happens. I feel like it's that way in a lot of things. Like there's so many words about the scenario, and I'm just like, well, tell me what happened. And I'm just reading and reading and reading. Like, what, who was it? What happened?
So the connection between point A and point B was too
I
far.
felt, or maybe even B to C, once you got
I actually, when they did reveal that later, I kind of had forgotten about her getting bumped in that whole sort of thing. Like I had semi forgotten that. I do remember there was a thing where Tom like wandered off and was on his phone again, talking to somebody, some mystery person.
But who?
That's exactly. That's kind of what I remembered. Obviously it must've been her, and that's how she knew where they were, and showed up there and whatever. And again, not to focus on this, Tom should have done this or that, but yeah, when now your ex-fiance just shows up where you're at unannounced, like, again, I don't know. He was put in a very, very, very tough situation of his own making, but he was still largely of his own making, not entirely, but he was in a weird situation. I get that. But yeah, I overall, I mean, yeah, I think we all felt the characters were pretty compelling. It's a quick read. It wasn't something, laborious. Like it's, oh God, when are we going to get past this section? Like it flowed really well. I was curious about what happened to Jane at the end. I didn't predict how it was going to go at all. Like I said, I predicted Tom would be out of the picture when he didn't call her for 2 weeks when they got to London. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you met some guy and you thought you hit it off one night and you exchanged numbers and then you don't hear from him for 2 weeks, are you even giving a shit when that call comes in 2 weeks later?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
honestly,
giving a shit.
do you? Would you?
I mean, you're probably all hope has been lost, and then when you hear from that person, you give a shit still.
Yeah, and then throw in the physical attraction and that whole, romantic playing under the blanket stuff.
All right. Well, look, I'm
she's
putting
still
that in the
thinking
noggin
about
there. I'm going to remember these details about.
Yeah,
Although you're going to have to take some shit later for taking 2 weeks to make the right choice.
Exactly.
Right.
I want to talk about, if that's okay.
Yeah, feel free.
So remember when they went on the first formal date and they went to that restaurant where it's, I think that they had some odd choices of food. Like her palate cracked me up. Like she got cheese on a date at this restaurant. Like she's a 30-plus-year-old woman and she's ordering cheese pizza off the child menu. I'm just like, what? And you get the sense she's a vegetarian, obviously.
Yeah.
Clearly, but and then where were they somewhere else? And it was, fish and chips, and she just got the chips. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crap.
She definitely eats like a college student.
For sure. Yes.
For somebody in her 30s, she definally has the dietary habits of a college kid.
Yeah.
No question.
That cracked me up.
Yeah.
That was really funny. I'm like, you're okay. How do you eat cheese pizza? And he's like, we just pick it up with our hands. And she's using a knife and fork, which I would probably do. He's like,
thinking it's England. I have to be I have to be all formal about it.
Yeah. You just want to get your hands dirty, but she's eating cheese pizza on a date. It just, I don't know. I was just like, interesting.
There were a lot of cool eccentricities, I thought, about
Yes.
the Jane character, and all of her neuroses and all of her, when I mean, again, I think I must just read most books that are written by men, and there is definitely a distinction because it did seem demonstrably different. And again, it was just interesting to hear it from a different way. And I guess that says, newsflash, Dave, you need to read more female writers, I guess. That'll be the note to self, like get on that situation.
I'll be staying here, and you never did like this.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about was what she wrote about best. Was it lust? Was it music? Was it heartache? Do you guys have thoughts?
I think she definitely, well, let's put it this way. The music business stuff seemed realistic to me. Okay, so that seemed very, very real. Like somebody who's been in the business, she understands the different levels. The Jonesy level, where you're up here, you're playing at this major place, to the I'm doing the bottom of the barrel, doing lip syncing in Vegas at a bachelor party. Like she understood the whole the industry. I thought that was presented really well. So the music part and her tie-ins with their love of music. But I think that what and the song titles and all of that. But I think for me it was kind of the lust or the romance or the whatever, that angle, the love angle, was more interesting, because if it was just a music story, it wouldn't have been that compelling. If there hadn't been these other aspects to it, and it was just a story of Jane's career, that would be marginally interesting, but not nearly as compelling a story.
I would say lust and heartbreak, but I think the basis, and she did a great job developing these characters, especially Jane and, Pippa as well. I thought it was a great book. I think the music business was backseat, if not the third seat for this.
Yeah.
I think this was the third row, which I don't have, by the way, but I feel like this is something that just showed her, and we can get back to that. We can talk about the title too, if we can do that next or whenever you want to.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to address too.
Yeah. I feel like it was love/lust and, being free, which has something to do with the title. But yeah, music was way in the back.
Yes. Can I word nerd for a moment here?
Absolutely. You may word nerd. So
I just think that her word choices, for the way that she described the feeling of singing and the feelings of lust and the feelings of heartbreak, I asked the question because I really couldn't choose which one she did a better job of describing, because I think she really nailed it on all three of those emotions that you feel. And I don't know that I've ever read a writer who wrote so well about how it feels to perform. I think she just did a stellar job.
Yeah.
Especially the anxiety about it, the thinking about it ahead of time, how nervous people get, and how, oh, I don't know, it could fail, and then everyone's going to see me and it's going to be a disaster and whatever. And based on my experience back in the 90s when I was in the music business, a lot of artists are like that. And it's the worst seeing them right before they're about to go on. You don't be in the same room with them because they're just this ball of nerves, and they're just sometimes very unpleasant to be around, but they get like that. They have that release when you go on stage, and now it's like, I'm here. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to do.
And so that feeling of that heaviness being lifted and just
gone,
locking in and performing. Yeah, I thought she described that really well.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. No, I think all of it was very well written, and you can't have a 90-minute discussion on a book if the characters suck and if it's a boring story and all that. Like we would have been done with it a long time ago, just, the novelty of Susanna Hoffs as a book. Yeah. That gets you like a 10-minute discussion. Like it's because we've expanded outward and realized we're sitting here having debates about fictional characters. Like, it's, but that just shows, that's a test. I mean, that if Susanna Hoffs ever did watch this, and that would be amazing if she did, but I'm not holding my breath. But, she should hopefully feel really good about that. Like she knows she has a future in this. I don't know how much longer she wants to perform, but if she wants to keep writing books, there's a definite future in it for her.
Yes. Agreed.
agree.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of her talent in so many different areas. I'm like,
Exactly.
man, you're a great singer and you can write a sweet book. That's
Yes.
pretty cool.
She seems like
Yeah.
a really nice person, and
She does seem like a really
Yeah.
nice person.
It's not enough. So if you will, please fall in love. I think it's
I mean, I don't have a brief answer for that. I thought about it in a lot of different ways. So obviously I thought about the Beatles song and how it might relate to that. Because at the end of Norwegian Wood, the woman's just disappeared and gone and he's in the bath. I don't think that was the strongest connection, but I did, in looking back, I kind of I looked back at some of the pages that I marked up, and um she uses a lot of language about flying and freedom, and I think she's flown in terms of taking control of her career and doing it the way that she wants to do it. But I also wonder if Hoffs intended for that to also relate to her relationship with Tom, because if you think about it, like, they meet on a plane and fly, and then
Flight,
when they get
phone.
back together, it's also on a plane again. And so that has to be something there.
I would think so.
And I wish that I hadn't flagged so many pages so I could easily find it. But there are lots of references to flying and birds and things as like a recurring theme. But also then, okay, I did find an important page. So it says, please, this is Tom speaking. Please let me say something first, he broke in, clearly ill at ease, having to assert himself this way. He composed himself. You were brilliant and gorgeous last night, truly. You soared cloud high, Jane. And then it says, from Jane Eyre. That was when Rochester tells Jane, early on, his instinctive sense of her, a vivid, restless, resolute captive. Were it but free, it would soar cloud high. How precisely those words conjured the feeling on stage last night. So I think that the connection to Jane Eyre is even stronger than the connection to the song Norwegian Wood.
Yeah.
I could see
I
that.
thought that's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you could interpret that title. I'm sort of seeing it as in a kind of a general way of, yeah, this bird has flown. Like, by the end of the book, she's in a very, very different state than she was at the beginning, where she was bottoming out, living with her parents. Her career is in the toilet, to at the end, she's flying on to success and to a reemergence of all this stuff, and to happiness after this Alex guy or whatever, whether it's with Tom or not. I'm still not counting on Tom in the long run. If there is a sequel, I see him not being there, but that's just me. So that's
Or
where
at least not being there through the whole book.
maybe not. Yeah, maybe he gets axed like early on or whatever. Send him back to Oxford, back to the co-eds or whatever. You go back and do that scene. That's fine. But yeah, I saw it as just like she's flown on from that bottoming out from where she was at the beginning of the book to just this completely new space, and she didn't have to do anything really horrible to get there. Like, it seemed like it worked out pretty well for her. Yeah, there's some heartbreak, a little bit of embarrassment. It certainly sucked getting fired by Jonesy. I'm sure that was all in the media, all over Twitter and all of that sort of thing. So it was a little bit embarrassing, but she's made it out the other end, and there you go. I mean, I guess that's how I would have interpreted it. Yeah.
And I agree with you. I also kept thinking the whole time about a bird in a nest. And at some point, the mom just kicks the bird out and it's like, good luck, you have to do it. And I think that was the journey that we saw, was her being, kicked out of the nest and learning how to fly on her own.
Yeah, because if she hadn't agreed to go to England in the first place, I mean, really the whole thing centered around Pippa giving her that opportunity to go to London. And if she hadn't, all this succession of events might have never happened. She might have gotten an apartment with her deadbeat brother and do the occasional Vegas gig or whatever. And, her story would have been completely different.
Like, Pippa's place was the nest.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And she was kind of like the mom and like being a little bit too
Yeah.
comforting and allowing her to just not, when the opportunity came and Jane kind of hesitated a little bit about the performing with Jonesy again, because she wouldn't agree to it at first. She wanted more details. Let's hold out. Let's do this. Let's do that. And, that was pushing her out of the nest. Like, you need to
Yep.
do this. Let's do this. You need to go.
Totally.
Oh, there you go. That's more with that metaphor for sure.
I think of it all along those lines, yes, but I think of it as that she freed herself from many bad things in her life. She freed herself from Alex, the girlfriend, I think her name was Jessica.
Mhm.
She hopefully got out of doing these crap gigs. She found someone stable after broken engagements and that type of thing. And she finally was hopefully able to rid herself of Jonesy. And I think she was able to, it's like this bird is flown. Like she's done. Like I'm done. I'm done with all
she
this.
could be like, she used Jonesy, right? So in other words, like we said, they all win. She got what she wanted. She's now on her way. She's flying on,
Do you remember, okay, the part where she was talking to Tom in the air after her drunken night with the Jonas brother, and she said something like, it's different being in the air. It's like you're removed from the earth, or like you're like there's a time capsule in the air. And I think with her, I think she had to go to everything to get away from it, if that makes any sense. She had to do the gig with Jonesy. That is going to help her. And she's like, I'm done with you. Like, bye.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're awful.
Yeah.
She was able to put the Alex thing away. She was able to, see her brother be happy. There's just a lot of things that were, sources of confusion and hurt for her that she was able to, kind of nullify, I guess is the word I'm looking
And
for.
I'm still thinking
Yeah.
if it did move, if the story did continue on, yeah, Tom is not in it for the long haul. I
don't know about
I think
that.
Jane's gonna have to get rid of him. I mean, I was a little more sympathetic to Tom at first, but I mean, now that we've had this discussion, now I'm being like, come on, Tom. I mean, he was red flag central from get go. I mean, he was so secretive and stuff.
I think
Well, in full disclosure, I was kind of sad that they ended up together because
Really?
it felt I don't know, this is maybe just like Shelley, like feminist, hear me roar. But the whole book is about, like you said, Jennifer, freeing herself from, Jonesy and I don't know. I just feel like even though like it's nice to have that closure of like they're together and they're happy and it's a happy ending, it seems like it goes against a lot of the themes of the book for her to like for the settling down of it all to be like the happy ending. Like I just wanted to see her go off and be this awesome independent bird that's flying, and instead now she's just creating a nest with Tom.
Well, but
in part
when Pippa and Will got married, we already talked about she wasn't there. She didn't get married. Their relationship started at the same time.
True.
And maybe that was her hint that Tom is Mr. Right now. He might not be Mr. Right.
And you make a good point that we do get some clues that she still is going to go on and do her own thing. Like it's not, Tom's not going to make her like quit her career or anything.
Right. And just
although in the second book he might, and that's why they break up. Just saying.
It could. I mean, or he wants to be her manager now, like one of those overbearing spouses of a celebrity, and now all of a sudden he's calling the shots. That would be the worst.
That'd be horrible.
I feel like you look at these like couples of, celebrity or, they get together like, Phoebe from Lisa Kudrow from Friends, and she's married to a guy who has an ad agency. Like they just an actress and someone who's more, on a corporate side or runs a business. It's an unlikely match. I mean, this guy's a professor at Oxford and she's a pop singer, who does have some depth, but it's just enough. Like, what's going to sustain that relationship? What's in common? What are they going to keep talking about? That sex is going to go away,
Yeah. What is going to sustain the relationship? And maybe that is what we find out in part 2, that it really doesn't. And he was just the like I said, Mr. Right now, but he's not Mr. Right. And maybe yeah, I mean, he isn't the right guy. I think we all agree Tom's not the right guy, but she's already gone back to him twice, so it's sort of hard to say that she maybe even if they break up again, maybe she'll still go back. So
I mean,
hard to
with
say.
our fiction friends, I do believe that relationship is lust based. I believe that relationship is physical, and who knows what they're going to talk about in 15 years.
Right. She likes the
Headache
British
inside.
professor type, and he likes the hot pop star type. Who wouldn't? But and so they have this, connection, I guess, based on that. But like you say, the sex will get old after a while, or at least won't be quite the same. And then what if you don't have a deeper connection? I feel like they do have a somewhat deeper connection, but again, I think we all agree that they're not necessarily right, and that for her career to ascend on, and that's what we think she's flying on. That's the bird that has flown, is her moving onward into a new stage. That being fixed in London, in Oxford or whatever, with a husband is maybe not the path that she's going to end up going.
Maybe
And the
that's why
hint was that she
doesn't
didn't
get
get married. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't get but maybe it's just not her jam.
So this is the part that I was looking for. She's there at the office at Oxford.
Okay.
And she's saying, maybe I would finally see the photographs of the family and the private moments and things. And then it says, and maybe it was the autumn chill or simply this thought which sent a shiver through me. You can know a person, know their body intimately, all the subtle places to touch, all the things you can do with your hands, your lips, your tongue, yet at the same time recognize they're still a complete stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just wonder, where is he kind of still a stranger at the end?
I think we all think that this
Stranger.
relationship is not long term.
No, probably not. Now that we all get into this.
He was a transitional situation, and great to get her over this Alex situation, gave her this boost of confidence she needed to want to get back out there in music, and she did it. And it's just it's a great it certainly is a nice feeling to have somebody who is that, you have these kinds of lovey-dovey feelings when you're having this career renaissance and all connected. But yeah, she doesn't need him. She's moving on. This bird has flown.
I'll only hurt you
Well, we never answered my question of who Leopard Pants is supposed to be. I don't know. I guess some just aging rock star from back in the day or something. I mean,
She probably hooked up with some random night.
way back when. I was sort of picturing him as like a Mick Ronson type, David Bowie's old guitar player from the 70s.
Yeah.
Was wearing leopard pants, and like I sort of saw him as like an old 70s British rock star type.
Maybe that's the Mick Jagger.
Okay, so have you guys seen Love Actually?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so the character that's the washed up rock star
Yes.
in that?
It's Bill.
Bill Nye.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his character sings a Christmas song.
Oh.
And he wears leopard pants and
Yes,
stuff. And the character in the
remember.
book did it too.
Yeah, because Leopard Pants did write a Christmas song, and it was kind of a hit. Or he had a Christmas single out, and it was kind of a hit. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, did
No.
she pull that from Love Actually? I
There
can't
might have
remember what it
been.
was. There was also a segment or a section where gosh, I wish I could remember what she said, but I was like, that's totally a Real Housewives reference, like 100%. Oh, it's the Silent Woman. The Silent Woman, and Real Housewives fans, you will understand when I say that. That's the name of a bar where this like major fight happens in the Real Housewives of Orange County. Pretty sure it's called the Silent Woman. But that also could just be a coincidence, and the Silent Woman is chosen because that's kind of what Jonesy's trying to do to her. I don't know. That's the part where she gets up and sings with the guys.
Oh, okay. I kind of remember that. Yeah.
I loved her, and this was initially on like in the first chapter, about the photo with her. And she said the embarrassing default photo, it was meant to be homage to Bob Fosse's choreography and cabaret mashup with Sharon Stone's controversial moment and Basic Instinct. Like, it's just so funny how that mashed up.
Yeah.
It cracked me up.
No,
But
she has a great sense of humor, and
yeah.
you can visualize pretty much all of the scenarios that she winds up in very, very easily. You know, you don't have to struggle to put yourself in that position.
My favorite
Yeah.
was the plane, like literally getting on the plane and meeting this guy, like literally when she's, as I said, probably has makeup all over her face and smells like yesterday. I just, I was like, how does this happen?
Well, and my last thoughts, I would say that I think missed opportunity in not tying her new CD into this book somehow. Like, I know that there are different processes, and the book was probably being worked on for a couple of years. This CD, at different times. But man, if there could have been some sort of tie-in to say, well, you put on track 3 when you read chapter 3 or whatever, missed opportunity is all I'm saying. But
Yeah,
uh,
agreed.
the new CD is cover songs, but it's not just more classic ones. Like she does the Stones and Squeeze and stuff, but she's also covers Billie Eilish, Phantom Planet,
Ooh.
Ed Sheeran, like just more current people too. So it's really good. The Deep End is the new CD that just came out pretty much simultaneously with the book.
Okay.
Yeah, like it would have been cool if she covered all the songs that were chapter titles.
Right.
Oh, I think
Right.
so too. And I love how she did that as well. But I'll be curious to see, if they do make it into a miniseries or a film, or whatever, how much of her music and how much of this music is tied in. I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of
Well,
things
because
like
when you do the visualize of the story, you're set in the more modern times. So are you going to fill it with kind of newer-ish music and try to make it a different kind of interpretation, take it out of that realm of her song title? Because you could, I guess, still tell the story without the song reference. This is just nice the way it fits in. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess I could see it that if they're making it more of a modern love tale and then the songs they use are different. But these aren't all 60s and 70s. There's The Cure, and there was some other stuff that was,
Yeah.
a little bit newer. So
I feel like that's just who she is. Wild Horses and Red Lipstick Girls. I mean, that's like, hold on, I want you to want me, Cheap Trick. I mean, this is just who she is. And I mean, she's just sexual healing. I feel as though, Tom, but I
Yeah.
feel like it just shows her depth as well with her musical knowledge. I mean, she was no idiot,
no,
she knew her stuff.
definitely
It'd
has that
be
depth.
cool to see some of that music come into the film, or to have the Bangles, make a cameo. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, or maybe she just does an original song or two. Like she could be the
Yeah.
voice of Jane. It could be other people's songs that they think are more appropriate, but they use her voice as Jane, because there probably
Yeah.
wouldn't. I mean, we're already casting the movie, but like the actress would probably not also be the singer, because most of the time they're not. That Daisy Jones, I think, is an exception or whatever, but most of the time it's somebody else doing the singing. They just the actor just kind of pretends. Yeah, there's a thought.
Yeah.
Get Susanna Hoffs doing the vocals. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I kind of want Rami Malek to be Jonesy.
Ooh, interesting. He is weird, and he did pull off a rock star type with the Freddie Mercury thing.
Yeah.
Which he did a great job at.
He did. He was brilliant.
Yeah, that was great. I
Possibility.
think, yeah. I think you need someone older, but if they could age him, he'd be perfect.
I think for Tom, how about this?
I
Do you watch
think so.
Succession?
Yeah.
The guy who is Tom on Succession, who's actually British in real life. Is he
No.
good looking enough to be Tom or no? No, he's off. I don't know.
No.
Have you heard him talk in real life? It's so distracting.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Don't like it. I
Yeah,
like him
no.
talking as Tom.
I don't know. I see like Viggo, Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo
He's
Mortensen?
great. Yes.
Trying to picture him all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Or like Liev Schreiber or someone, but you need someone kind of blondish. I imagine this kind of bigger, burlier, tall, man. I don't know why, like mid-50s, somewhere along
Is
those
he
lines.
that old though? Because she's only 33.
I thought he was they were saying he was in his 40s, right? He was like 40 or 40 something, early 40s, I thought.
Oh, maybe that was what I was hoping he was.
And I think Jonesy's in his 30s.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember thinking like when they talked about his
I think they
age-
said his late 30s. I think he was in his later 30s. I think he's still older than Jane though.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
a little bit older than her, but
Except for
he
Jane.
when that part was revealed, I was surprised that he was that young. I pictured him older, but
Yes.
there was also a part about how he started when he was really young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Just like
so
Prince.
Mhm.
there you go.
Prince started
Going
as a
back to that.
teenager, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
didn't retain those ages. I don't know why. I think I went to like put characters in. I was just trying to fit the whole image of it in my head, and I went older automatically. So
Well,
Well, and I
that's
think
okay.
that speaks to
The
how
mind
great
goes
the
where the mind
characters
goes.
were, is that like you can really picture who you want to picture, you
yeah.
know? And so
Absolutely.
we all picture people that would, you know, we'd want to be in our story.
And I'm
There you
sure
go.
if I really put my mind to it, I could come up with a good cast who I think would be the right people to play the roles. I'm not thinking of their names right now, but it would come to me, you know, if I wasn't under the pressure of this right now. But I would think of who these people were for sure.
Okay, maybe we need to do like a mini-sode. Take some time to think about it and then
Yeah.
propose
Come
our
back and say
characters
who
for
we
the
think
film.
should be in the movie.
I think
Yeah.
that sounds great.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up here. All right, hey everybody, thanks a lot for making it all the way to the end. This is the first of what will definitely be a continuing series. We've already started working on future ones. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.